yourselves learned friends. Many of you will know that the term or the reference learned friends has a long history. It is a history that was only preserved to choice professions, 3 to be exact. The medical profession, medical doctors were allowed to refer to themselves as learned friends. Lawyers were allowed to refer to themselves as learned friends. And theologians were allowed to refer to themselves as learned friends. Why? The question is, it is because the law is a qualification which requires extensive training. We are the only profession in the world, if I ignore the others for a moment, that can claim to have a smattering of knowledge of everything there is. Many of you who are lawyers will know. Many of you who are judges will know. Many of you who are lawyers in the making will know that when you are called upon to adjudicate on anything, if you are a judge, even if you are a doctor, you hand down a decision which will bind doctors. If it is an engineering issue, you hand down a decision which will bind engineers. And if you are a lawyer and you are cross-examining a doctor, many of you will remember the many occasions when you make the doctors look bad, notwithstanding that you are not doctors yourself. That is why we are a learned profession. And when you are a learned profession, it behooves you to ensure that you conduct yourself with the greatest of dignity. That when you are a learned profession, you ensure that you are a warrior for truth and justice. That when you are a member of the learned profession, you ensure that you are a warrior for that which is good in the society. And I heard the judge speaking so very passionately and eloquently about the role of a lawyer in society, particularly in pre-industrial societies. Remember, there are many times when those in the society perceive us as being parasitic of the societies rather than as agents of social engineering. When we talk about the role of students in society and therefore democracy, we must always ask ourselves, are we parasitic upon the society? In other words, is the society the poorer because we are lawyers, or society is the better because we are lawyers? And I dare say, ladies and gentlemen, that a lawyer is an important agent in any society. Many of us who practice law remember that the law gives us an opportunity to be midwives in the process of determining justice according to law. It is an honorable profession because it is something that allows you to sit in judgment of your fellow men and women if you are a judge. It is an important profession because if you are a defense lawyer, it gives you an opportunity to ensure that your client, if it is a criminal case, is not subjected to the vagaries of law without proper order. It is an important and a honorable profession if you are prosecuting a criminal case to ensure that those who engage in calumny are not allowed to be dangerous to the society. And if you are in a civil environment and you are dealing with a commercial matter, it is important that you are a midwife to ensure that justice is done. And that, to me, is a critical role that we play in our societies. But we must always remember that to whom much is given, a lot is expected. It is therefore incumbent upon us at all times to remember that in as much as the law is our source of livelihood, we must conduct ourselves with decorum and dignity. And that requires, among other things, that we are ethical. It requires, among other things, that we are true to justice. It requires, among other things, that we are humble. It requires, among other things, that we recognize that the nobility of our profession notwithstanding, we are not the possessors of the monopoly of knowledge and wisdom, and that therefore we must carry ourselves with humility. Indeed, we must be the personification of humility, but we must also be warriors for truth. We must be prepared to be warriors for truth and to be sacrificial about it. Those of you who have had the advantage of listening to Nigeria's Wole Soyinka will tell you, and particularly when you read his little book, his prison diary, The Man Died, he says, the man dies in silence who remains silent in the face of tyranny. It therefore is incumbent upon us at all times when we are dealing with the larger society to be present in the rooftops. And when I talk about rooftops, I'm not talking about them literally, I'm speaking metaphorically, that we use the forums which are available to us to be present in the arena for purposes of articulating what is good and just for society, even when we are threatened with personal danger and when our safety and our well-being is threatened. Many lawyers in Uganda have done that. Many lawyers in Uganda have paid the ultimate price. And you young men and women who are students have a duty to follow in that path. Remember, great men and women rise on the shoulders of greater men and women who preceded them. But for those of us who are teachers and those who are teaching you, remember always that it is our desire that you are better than us, because there is no greater recompense for a teacher than to produce pupils who surpass them. But that requires a number of things. It requires for you to ask the question, what kind of student are you? I remember that question being posed by a great Ghanaian, Agri Kwejir Agri, James Eman Kwejir Agri, sometimes referred to as the Agri of Africa. You will remember this James Kwejir Agri when he was one of the leading lights of the Ghanaian struggle for independence. When he was talking to young Ghanaians, he told them, and that was on the eve of independence, that in order for Ghana, then known as Gold Coast, to be a great country, it is incumbent upon her young men and women to be young men and women who are imbued with the desire to serve society, that they are imbued with the desire to change their societies, and that in the quest to change their societies, that they must start from the beginning. They must change themselves. They must change their villages. They must change their neighborhoods. They must change their countries, so that when they are dead and gone, and we have the opportunity to write the obituary, we may say of them, the society was the better, because these were students who knew what they wanted, and they were sacrificial in serving their countries. I am now urging you that that is the kind of student that you must be, because there is a time for everything. There is a time to be a student, and this is that time. And when you are a student, you must ask yourself, what kind of student are you? Are you a good student who is demonstrating that in the fullness of time you will grow into a great student? Chile's Salvador Allende said in the 1960s that when you are a university student and you are not a revolutionary, there is something wrong with you. I therefore urge all students of Makerere School of Law to be revolutionaries. But what kind of a revolutionary? And revolting against what and about what? These are the questions. And when I talk about being a revolutionary, I'm not talking about fire-eating pseudo-revolutionaries whose only claim to fame will be that they are in the arena and in the front yard when there is a riot. No, that is not my kind of revolutionary. My kind of a revolutionary is one who has conquered himself. My kind of a revolutionary is one who has identified the problems of the society. My kind of a revolutionary is one who has therefore said that I'm going to participate in the struggle to change the society. My kind of revolutionary is the one who says that I'll speak truth to power, but not with the arrogance that will inflame their anger, but with the firmness that will open their eyes. I'm urging you to be that kind of revolutionary, because when you are that kind of revolutionary, then you can change your society. And our societies are crying for change. I want the young student now to be a student who is not stuck in the past, who glorifies the past. No, the past must be glorified, but we must never be fossilized in the past. I know that the present is a child of the past, and the future a child of the present. So we must be prepared to contribute in a positive fashion. I have no doubt in my mind that Makerere School of Law provides you with an environment where you will be incubated so that when you go out into Uganda, you will be a good Ugandan who by dint of his or her presence will see Uganda's agriculture change, will see Uganda's politics change, will see Uganda's laws being implemented, will see Uganda's lives change, and that when you go into your village, you'll be an agent of change. But you'll not be so provincial as to be only confined to Uganda, that you'll be a good East African who will be able to dissolve the boundaries that exist, the artificial boundaries that were handed down to us by the colonialists in Berlin in 1884 and 1885, that you'll be able to dissolve that. You'll be a good East African. That you'll not only be a good East African, you'll be a good African who is able to see the initiatives that are being undertaken to change the continent of Africa, that you'll be familiar with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, that you'll be familiar with Africa Agenda 2063. That is the Ugandan lawyer that I want to see. That lawyer will be good for Uganda. That lawyer will be a warrior for democracy. That lawyer will be the lawyer that is going to change society. That lawyer that will be the lawyer that will be pioneering the next 50 years for Makerere University. I have no doubt in my mind that you have the intellectual wherewithal and the intellectual firepower to ensure that that is achieved. And that is all I urge you. That is all I hear the judges present here urge you. That is all I hear the academics here urge you. That is all I hear the president of the Uganda Law Society urge you. So go out there into the world in the knowledge that greatness is born out of humility. And I remember so very vividly an example that I've given times without number about humility, and it takes me to Greece of old. And it tells me that at one time, the oracle of Apollo wanted to determine who was the wisest person in Greece. And it tells me that the oracle of Apollo went yonder into Greece and listened to great wise people. I want to imagine to myself that in that quest, he must have met Aristophanes, Sophocles, and all the others. And then when he went to Socrates, he asked Socrates, having of course asked the others who praised themselves, he asked Socrates, what do you know? And Socrates famously said, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing. I want you to go out there in the knowledge that no matter what you know, knowledge and the field of knowledge is without limit. and that you know nothing, and that what you are good for is that you are in constant quest for knowledge. When you are the personification of humility, you will be a good student. And when you are a good student, when you graduate, you'll be a good lawyer. And when you are a good lawyer, you'll be a good citizen. And when you are a good citizen, you'll be a good African. And when you are a good African, you'll be a good human being. And when you are a good human being, you'll be an agent for democracy, in my definition to mean service for humanity without expecting anything in return. God bless you and have a great 50 years on as you celebrate 50 years since. Be blessed.
Thank you very much, Professor PLO Lumumba, for those wise words and for that impartation of knowledge upon thine minds of very eager young students who are willing to listen in and cultivate the ideologies of Africanity and Pan-Africanism and democracy and our role as students in the birth of that democracy. Thank you very much for that time and for that lecture. Surely, in the words of William Shakespeare, if I can do nothing, if I were ever to do nothing, I would say thank you. And thank you it is from us. We would now like to invite our president to give a vote of thanks and allow this session, the first session of excusing the professor to go on to his other pressing demands, to take over from here. Mr. Grace Waiswa, President, kindly extend our vote of thanks as the Makerere Law Society to the great wisdom that we have received from all our speakers today and await the next session. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much, our chief guest and our keynote speaker, Professor PLO Lumumba, for that inspiring speech. I am very confident that the spirit of revolutionarism, the spirit of leadership, and the spirit of desire to participate in the democratization of our country has been ignited amongst the students of the School of Law. I know that today marks a new chapter of special participation of the School of Law and its members and the Makerere Law Society in the democratization of this country and in the politics of the nation, shaping the narrative for Makerere Law School, for Makerere University, for the universities in Uganda, and even across East Africa and beyond. I thank you for the confidence that you exhibit, and you have showed in us the confidence that you have in young people to be great and to be having the intellectual prowess